Bryan Danielson is out for commentary. It's our main event, Miro and Orange Cassidy in the World Title Eliminator Tournament. Orange Cassidy has his ribs taped up, and Miro just starts suplexing him on the floor. Bear hug, stomps the ribs, the tape gets removed. And Tony Schiavone says, we're going to stay with the action as long as we need to. If it cuts into the NHL, so be it. F this hockey. It does terrible numbers compared to us on this network.
One day I would love to see them just like go in 10 minutes into hockey.
Oh man, from Tony Schiavone going off on NHL and Pat McAfee against Major League Baseball, wrestling has no care for their fellow programmers.
That's it.
Cassidy fights back, shotgun dropkick, tilt-a-whirl DDT, and Danielson is right on top of it, noting the bad neck of Miro, which became the focus. Miro bailed to avoid the orange punch, so Cassidy leapt off the top and put both of them through a table at ringside and then gives the thumbs up that he's okay. Miro breaks the count at 9 and it gets hit with the beach break for the big near fall of the match. And as he's setting up for the orange punch, Miro just runs through this guy, like just shoulder tackles him in midair, and then proceeds to kick his head square off. Game over is applied. Cassidy taps. The best line is Danielson reacting, "Oh my God." Perfect. It was just perfect on several levels, given that it was Miro. And then Danielson just enters the ring for the stare down to close the show. They will meet at Full Gear, and Miro will not engage in any kind of handshake. You vegan.
I thought this was awesome, man.
Oh, this was a very fun match, and I thought it was a right outcome too.
Yeah, and I thought Miro was the right choice. You know, you have Moxley going into this tournament and going into this match with Orange Cassidy as just this incredibly dominant threat, leaning towards a heel, and who knows if he would have been, booed that much against Daniel Bryan. But I think the perfect person to still slot into the same role, to look just as dominant, and, to work as a heel, straight up heel this time in a dynamic against Bryan Danielson, is Miro. You probably had a bit of a longer match here than you might have with Jon Moxley working his current gimmick against Orange Cassidy, because I wonder if he would have went through Cassidy quickly. Something tells me it probably would have been a bit longer, but this was Miro's re-debut since losing the title to Sammy Guevara, and I think he needs to look even more dominant than he has throughout that TNT run, and I thought he absolutely accomplished that. Orange Cassidy is really a perfect opponent for him to establish that, because Cassidy is a tremendous underdog babyface, selling his ass off for this giant monster of a man, looking for God to redeem himself to him. So the match had great urgency. It made Miro look awesome, and I think it sets up a great, very captivating match at Full Gear.
Yeah, this was really interesting to see how they would handle, such a drastic change to this tournament that was obviously mapped out for a while, and how you handle that. I'm not trying to just always do the comparison, but if this had happened in WWE, you have the luxury that you could give the audience the biggest match possible. If you had an equivalent of a CM Punk available for your Danielson, I'm just using them as the examples here, but whatever your equivalents are in WWE, you can make that match. But I would venture to guess that for Tony Khan, he has long range plans, medium range plans, and immediate plans. And that's not to say everything is mapped out for months to come, but I'm sure he has different places of, like, a Danielson Punk match. I am sure that has crossed his mind, and there is at least a semblance of an idea of the road to eventually get there. And I'm not going to disrupt everything just for this plan. I'm also going to follow these rankings to make them be credible, to get Miro in. And the end result is, like, this did not feel like you were just shoehorning in a replacement. It doesn't appear like, we won't exactly know immediately if this really alters a whole lot of plans beyond Danielson and Moxley in terms of Miro's direction. But I thought it was handled really well, and it's, an indication of going with something while probably preserving other plans that you want to save to deliver in the proper fashion.
Yeah, I agree. An interesting question would be how they would have re-debuted Miro if it wasn't going to be a situation like this. I don't know if Miro could ask for a better re-debut than to be slotted in a position like this, taking Moxley's place, beating Orange Cassidy, and then facing Bryan Danielson. It's going to take me a while, everybody. Facing Bryan Danielson at a pay-per-view. See, we kind of talked about this in the news update this afternoon with Andrew, but now that this is actually a concrete plan, what's your pick? Who do you think wins this match?
I still really like the idea of Danielson winning. And, I think like there is certainly the argument of either one. Like you're setting someone up potentially for Hangman Page. And I think the idea of Hangman Page and Miro could work really well. That here's Miro going for the Ultimate Championship. Or it's Danielson finally getting his title shot. And that's a big match too. So I think you do have the luxury of going either way. But I really like the idea, especially if you are going with Page, of like a major television match with Danielson that would be really cementing Page into that role as champion.
See, I feel like Moxley was ultimately going to win this thing.
Moxley would have worked really well for that exact reason with Page.
And for that reason, plus the fact that, this is Miro coming off of a re-debut where you're, I think, really trying to rehab him off the TNT title loss, and in many ways elevating him after the TNT title run. I could see him winning this one and being Page's first defense.
It's possible. Like, I think you could make the argument either way, depending on, like, Danielson, challenging for the title is kind of this long-term thing. Like, you could do it now. You could also put it off and Miro could win this. I think had it been Moxley, you also have, I think, the believability that either guy could win. You could see Page and Moxley. You could also see the Omega Moxley rematch that would time out to be pretty much a year to the day of Omega winning the title last December at the Winter is Coming one as well.
Would it be exploding ring?
Probably not. Yeah, probably not.